It was a chilly autumn afternoon in a small American town. The kind of afternoon where the leaves crackle under your shoes and the air carries that crisp, clean smell that makes you feel alive. On the sidewalk near a busy corner, a little girl stood staring at a man sitting on a worn-out bench. He looked tired, older than her parents, with deep lines carved into his face and a coat that had seen better days. Most people hurried past him, avoiding eye contact, wrapped up in their own worlds. But this little girl? She did something no one expected. She walked straight up to him, opened her tiny arms, and hugged him. The world seemed to pause for a moment. The man froze. No one had hugged him in years, not like this, not with the pure innocence and courage of a child. People passing by slowed down, watching, whispering to each other, but the little girl didn't care. All she knew was that he looked lonely, and she wanted to make him feel safe. And then, something happened that no one could have predicted. Before we dive deeper into this story, make sure to subscribe to Kindness Story Hub, hit the like button if this story warms your heart, and leave a comment below sharing a moment when kindness touched your life. Your small actions can inspire thousands, just like this little girl did. Her name was Emily. She was 7 years old, with curly brown hair that bounced as she walked and bright eyes that seemed to notice everything. Emily had always been curious about the people around her. Her parents often told her stories about the importance of kindness, about how even a small act could change someone's entire day. But Emily didn't just want to hear about kindness, she wanted to live it. That day, Emily was walking home from school with her backpack slung over one shoulder. She had just finished a science project, and her mind was buzzing with ideas and excitement. As she turned the corner, she saw him, the man on the bench. He looked completely out of place in the busy street, like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. His eyes were downcast, and his hands fidgeted nervously. Something about him made Emily stop. She had been taught that sometimes people look sad because they are hurting inside, even if you can't see it on the surface. Emily didn't know this man. She didn't know why he was there, or what he had been through. But she felt it. She felt that he needed a friend, if only for a moment. So she approached him slowly, careful not to scare him, and whispered, "Hi, mister. Can I give you a hug?" At first, he didn't respond. He looked up, surprised that a little girl was talking to him. Then, when he realized she meant it, he hesitated. People don't just hug strangers. Especially little girls. But Emily didn't pull back. She waited patiently, her arms wide open, her heart full of courage. Finally, he slowly leaned forward, and for the first time that day, or maybe even longer, he felt the warmth of human connection. He hugged her back, stiff at first, unsure of how to respond. But soon, his body relaxed, and a small, genuine smile broke through the layers of sadness. Emily's hug was simple, but it carried a message bigger than words could ever express. You matter. You are not invisible. You are loved. Passers-by stopped to watch. Some shook their heads in disbelief, whispering, "Kids these days, so brave." Others smiled, their hearts quietly moved by this simple act of compassion. But Emily wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about the man in front of her. She could feel his sorrow, but she also felt something else, hope. After a few moments, he pulled back and looked into Emily's eyes. "Thank you," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "No one has hugged me in a very long time." His words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Emily nodded, not fully understanding the depth of his pain, but knowing she had done something right. Emily didn't need to know his story to make a difference. But the man, whose name was James, felt a shift in his heart. He had been living alone, battling the loss of his job and the recent passing of his wife. Life had been hard, and most days felt empty. But this little girl, with her fearless heart and simple act of love, reminded him that he wasn't completely alone in the world. You know, James said softly, you just made my whole day. Emily smiled shyly. I just wanted you to feel happy. Then, as if on cue, her mom called out from across the street. Emily waved and ran to her, but not before looking back at James one more time. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a connection that needed no words, no explanation, just the pure, universal language of kindness. Over the next few days, James found himself thinking about that hug constantly. He had been avoiding people, shutting himself off from the world, but Emily's gesture reminded him that even small interactions could have a profound impact. He started visiting the park again, sitting on the same bench, but this time he looked around with curiosity instead of despair. People began noticing him. Some would nod and smile, others would stop to chat. Slowly, James rediscovered the joy of human connection, all because a little girl had the courage to hug a stranger. Emily, on the other hand, never considered herself a hero. To her, she had simply done what felt right. Her parents praised her for her compassion, but she shrugged and said, I just wanted him to feel better. That's the beauty of kindness, it doesn't need recognition. It doesn't wait for rewards. It flows naturally from a heart that cares. A week later, James decided to do something special. He baked a small batch of cookies and brought them to the park, leaving them on the bench with a note, for anyone who needs a hug or a smile today. Emily found the note while walking past with her mom, and her eyes lit up. She realized that kindness doesn't just move in one direction, it spreads. One small act can ripple outward, touching countless lives in ways we may never fully see. Soon, others began following suit. People started leaving notes, snacks, and little gifts for strangers. The park, once quiet and lonely, became a hub of warmth and human connection. James even started volunteering at a local shelter, meeting people who were going through tough times, just like he had. And he often thought of Emily, the little girl who reminded him that no one is too small to make a big difference. This story isn't just about a hug. It's about the courage to reach out, the bravery to care for someone you don't know, and the power of small gestures to change lives. Emily didn't have money, influence, or power. She had empathy and the willingness to act on it. And that was enough to transform a lonely man's world. Kindness is contagious. It starts with one person noticing someone else, seeing them, and deciding to do something, even if it's just a smile, a hug, or a few kind words. Emily's hug reminds us that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Even the smallest gestures can create ripples that extend far beyond what we can imagine. Sometimes we get so caught up in our busy lives that we forget how much impact we can have on others. We think, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But Emily's story proves that one person can make a monumental difference. One hug can spark hope. One smile can lift a spirit. One act of courage can inspire a wave of kindness. As the days turned into weeks, Emily continued to bring her warmth to the world. And James? He never forgot the little girl who showed him that he mattered. In his darkest moments, he learned that human connection is the light that guides us back to hope. And it all began with a simple hug. Next time you see someone sitting alone, looking sad, or struggling, remember Emily. Remember that you don't need a reason, a reward, or even a plan. Sometimes all it takes is a kind word, a gesture, or a hug to remind someone that they're not invisible. And maybe, just maybe, that small act will change their life, just like it changed James' life, because the truth is, kindness is never wasted. It grows, spreads, and returns to touch our hearts in ways we could never predict. The world can feel heavy, cold, and indifferent at times, but every moment of genuine kindness makes it warmer, softer, and brighter. So hug a friend, smile at a stranger, hold the door open, or just say a kind word today. You never know whose world you might transform. And if you carry Emily's courage with you, you might just discover the power of kindness, the kind that changes lives forever. Remember, being kind doesn't mean you have to change the whole world. It just means you have the courage to touch one life at a time. And that, my friends, is more than enough.